Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Garena Pro Gaming Series promotions and relegations. Of course, just in time for the summer split. We are your casters for today. My name is Aika, and with me here is Atlas, and we're going to head into the first set of matches for this day. It's going to be between the Manila Eagles and Infused Esports.
It's going to be very interesting. Manila Eagles placed sixth in the spring split, so they have to face up against Infuse, and the rosters that after they've been locked in, I think, are very powerful, very interesting. I think Infuse has a good chance, but of course, when TME gets angry, when TME Cerberus IPT Blue gets angry, they get angry. So we're gonna see how all of that plays out after the pick and bans. But of course, the
matches actually right now are being played live at the Pinoy Gaming Festival in Trinoma. And of course, this wouldn't all be possible without Bacchus.
And of course, stay tuned. Later at 6 p.m., there's going to be the canceled match from yesterday, Emperor Esports versus Ashen Arena. Yeah, but it will be played not in PGF. It will just be streamed live for you guys, so stay tuned for that. It's going to be 2 promotions and relegations matches for today. So just stay tuned for that. But for now, yeah.
And speaking about the current matchup, I mean, you talked about TME being very feisty about defending their slot, but at the same time, Infused Esports, a team that isn't entirely new. We've seen them before at the Pro Gaming Series, and I'm pretty sure if TME is very hell-bent on defending their spot, I'm sure Infused Esports really wants to be back in the Pro Gaming Series. So I wouldn't discount them when it comes to like the motivation that's going into this match. And it's interesting because we rarely have these kinds of early in the morning matches for esports here in the Philippines.
Usually, like gamers, they're used to like waking up in the afternoon and all.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really a test of their discipline. How early do they wake up? How early do they adjust to the schedule of the match? So I'm really interested to see how all of them perform. The roster, as I said, is going to be interesting. I know Path to Walk from Infuse is actually Hechizo, who was one of the highest impact junglers from last split from on IPT. He had a 70% kill participation. So I'm really looking forward to how the teams play around him and against him.
Yeah, I remember that. He was one of the top junglers, of course, up there next to Tamsu, for example. And that's definitely going to be exciting seeing him again here at the Pro Gaming Series. And we'll see as well. Actually, I'm quite interested that he would change his name to something like that, especially when, you know, Hechizo has already made his mark with that name. But that being said, I wonder what they're going to be bringing into this match, given that it's a best of 2 and usually best of 3, I mean. And usually when you have a best of 3, you can't really, you would save like the most surprising strategies you have for the series determining match, but then at first you don't want to reveal too much. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Wake up, because now we're heading into the drafting phase. It's pick and bans for both of the teams here, and there's none yet. Of course, we have already 3 bans.
Of course, we are running the 10-ban system, so there's going to be 3 bans each for the first rotation, and after the 3rd picks for each team is going to be the 4th and 5th bans. So looking at it now, TME does not want to deal with Hedges or Path to Walks Graves. Graves is one of the most powerful junglers in the meta right now, and giving that to a high-impact jungler like Path to Walk is definitely not a good idea, so they do ban that out. Vladimir, Awaken on that Vladimir, are very effective. One of the best mid laners right now. Lots of sustained damage with a few high spikes of burst, as well as Ashe. Very high utility AD carry.
Yes, all right, and we have, again, there, actually, see, that was the interesting thing when we were looking at the rosters that Infuse is coming with. We have Hechizo with that interesting name, and at the same time, their top laner is Flash to Die, and to me, that's like, well, he's probably going to change his name if they do actually manage to make it into the Pro Gaming Series. But, you know, it's really interesting. Anyway, with that, we have bans on Ivern, LeBlanc, and Varus as well here on the side of Infuse.
Yeah, the same kind of bans against TME. It's going to be the mid laner, a jungler, and an AD carry. And what's interesting here is that they ban both high utility AD carries, ones with really high level 6 spikes. So that's going to be taken out of the game. And so it's going to be TME prioritizing the loot. They want that utility. They want that early game poke. They want to deny a lot of these assassinations popular in Season 7. Side of Infused, they already lock in their bot lane. That's actually not a lot of information given away because they do already have information that it will be Shadow.
They're running Lulu on Shadow, and in response they're gonna pick up that Karma and Ezreal for their bot lane. So not revealing too much to the Manila Eagles. Of course, they might already have some idea as to what the ADC pick is going to be for Manila Eagles, given that there is a ban on the Ashe.
So it's gonna
be they're gonna prioritize first picking in response the Zac, and we'll see what they come up with next.
The Infuse's pick, I like the Karma pick. It really maximizes against the Lulu. The sheer utility pre-6 of the Karma, and then the safety and the poke coming from the Ezreal. Karma herself has a lot of poke. Soul Flare and Inner Flame have a lot of possibility to just burst down a lot of champions. It's going to be the Teemo hover. It's going to be I think they're just teasing us.
Is it going to be a hover or is it going to be a lock-in? Of course, it's not going to be a lock-in, it seems.
Kassadin might be actually interesting here. But knowing Trevor, and his Flash Ghost, I think it might actually be Syndra, because right now they're lacking damage. TME. Mid laner, Syndra would be one of the best. Orianna, that's going to be the Syndra lock-in, because Orianna has a lot of utility as well.
Yeah.
But her damage isn't as reliable and effective as Syndra. And since they've already locked in the Zac and the Lulu, the Syndra is understandable here.
You already have all of that utility. You do want to make sure that you have someone with a reliable amount of damage to be able to make the most of that utility. And I saw a lot of amazing Syndra players actually during the GPL. So I'm looking forward to how Manila Eagles is going to utilize this in their composition.
Yeah, they can just Syndra can just 100-0 a lot of champions in the game, especially but since the Karma is there, so there's a little bit of buffer for Infused here. That might be the Trundle pickup for the top lane.
Yeah, and they actually have Karma there to help them avoid the stun from the Syndra. So if they manage to do that and re-engage, Syndra's going to be in a lot of trouble. But in response, they do lock in that Lee Sin. I wonder if it's going to have... Oh, no, they haven't locked it in.
Yeah, it's just going to be a hover, but the Lee Sin, of course, that's going to be scary. If Path to Walk or Path to Walk is on that Lee Sin, very high pressure. The early game ganks that can come from Lee Sin, because he can just bypass wards.
Exactly.
So him on that Lee Sin, because Graves is banned out, is another one. It's another really good choice here for the jungler of Infuse, and their composition is looking really scary right now. But of course, let's look at the bans right now for a second rotation. Infuse gonna ban out 2 80 carries, 2 high power 80 carries. The Caitlyn very safe. Lucian just go in wild. So it's gonna be TME. I wonder they could pick up the Jhin, but Jin's gonna have a really bad time against these 3 laners that Infuse has picked up.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think they could actually bring out, like, I don't know, Kennen. Kennen would be a possibility here. We did see it in GPL. We did see it in the Piltover's Finest finals and Battle for Third. So it might be a pickup here, because I can't really think of any other AD carry that will be available, because Ashe is banned out. Varus, Caitlyn. Ooh, it's gonna be Kennen indeed.
Yeah.
And
it's actually when they did pick the Kennen up in the GPL, it was in response to the enemy team's composition lacking damage, lacking so much damage. So they figured, hey, why not we pick that up? And now they do finalize their composition with that Galio pick. And in response, Infused as well has closed it. Has closed their draft, so it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting here. The Nautilus top lane and the Victor lock-in. I have not seen Victor for a while, at least in the local play, because a lot of other mid laners really just out damage and out utility him. So it's going to be interesting to see how Awaken fares on that. It's going to be Cleanse, of course, to match the Scatter the Weak coming from the Syndra, Trevor's Syndra. So
I think as long as they manage to avoid that threat, and of course be careful of the flank, it's gonna have they have a lot of ways to actually overwhelm the Manila Eagles here with Infused's composition, especially when you have Path to Walk leading the charge there. But anyway, we're going to be heading into that. Again, this is the Garena Pro Gaming Series Promotions and Relegations. The first matchup is between the Manila Eagles and Infused Esports. So it's going to be a best-of-3 matchup, and whoever, of course, gets those 2 wins will be qualifying for the Pro Gaming Series Summer Split.
It's going to be really exciting coming into summer, especially if Infused wins this. Infuse really back and forth into the PGS, but of course, going to be really interesting to see how they fare. Coming into looking at these both of these compositions, they might lack damage, especially TME. Infuse has the potential to just burst down TME. They have Victor, they have Lee Sin, who does fall off, but he has a lot of damage potential early. Combine that with the sheer poke coming from Don's Karma, and of course Jisoo's Ezreal. Later in the game, TME might have a hard time with only the damage dealers Trevor and Marky being there. But of course, they might just win this through sheer utility.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there is definitely a lot of threat with the poking, with all of the damage that's coming in from Infuse, but I think that's exactly what the Manila Eagles wants because they prepared for this kind of composition. And I think the key point here is for them to make sure that Trevor will be most effective with his Syndra, because if he doesn't make that work, then definitely he's going to fall prey to Path to Walk, for example, there, and that's going to spell the end for his team. And definitely I am interested in how these two mid laners are going to face off here.
Yeah, the win conditions for both of these teams are sort of similar. Because they lack damage, they have to play around it. TME just has sheer CC and lockdown for the team fights, which would allow Marky and Trevor to just continue dealing out damage. And Trevor, of course, can just burst down either Jisoo or Awaken. Even with shields coming from Dawn and maybe a safeguard from Path to Walk, I don't think it will be enough if they get ahead. But for Infused, they want these skirmishes. They want really these small-scale skirmishes where Jisoo can excel and where Awaken can also deal damage while being mobile. So that I think that will be their win condition for here. And Path to Walk really needs, it's all centering around Path to Walk.
To make those big plays.
To make those big plays, let his team snowball, which would mean that the utility coming from the Middle Eagles would just be nullified. But TME, if they can endure that, they have a lot of tankiness, they have a lot of CC. Even Marky can self-peel, because of course AD carry Kennen doesn't jump in with a Maelstrom.
Yeah.
He stays away, lots of constant damage and CC. And he uses the Slicing Maelstrom when he's in a pinch. So it's going to be really interesting to see how these games play out.
Yeah, a lot of the most effective Kennen players that we've seen so far in the GPL and the LCS, they come in last, definitely when the enemy team has forgotten that they exist, and then they come in and finish off everyone else, and it makes them wonder what happened to bring that about, because it's easy to ignore the Kennen, especially when you have something like a Syndra that a lot of people...
High threat.
Yeah, it's very high threat. A lot of people focus on not being caught by that Syndra, and in that process, they end up dismissing the Kennen, and of course it helps that Kennen is very small. I mean, I personally have that problem when I'm watching esports matches for League of Legends, and then I don't pay a lot of attention to the Kennen when I see that. And of course, on
real ninja.
Yeah, real ninja.
That's the ideal ninja.
And
just shouts at you with electricity.
They definitely have to be careful of Path to Walk and make sure they lay down a lot of vision, because he can make or break whatever things that the Manila Eagles will set up. He can definitely break their formation. And Jisoo, because of his mobility, can respond to that very easily.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's going to be crucial, definitely the first game. But again, this is a best-of-3 match, so we are expecting that they haven't brought out everything just yet. And if anything, this is going to be, especially for Manila Eagles, it's going to be a way for them to be able to see what Infused is going to be bringing, or if they have prepared anything very lethal for the best-of-3. Usually, when it comes to a best-of-3 series, the first game isn't going to be that telling, unless of course you have something that you're definitely sure of. With Manila Eagles, they've had a whole split to prepare for this. They've had several matches with the top teams, so I'm going to be expecting a lot from the Manila Eagles, definitely. But at the same time, we cannot discount the experience that Infuse has also had.
Yes, Infuse coming back into the PGS possibly. Plus, going through the Piltover's finest, definitely they have a lot of experience. They have a lot of challenges under their belt, and I'm sure that they have prepared for this also. But yeah, that's really best of threes are interesting, because best of ones you just go all out. With best of fives, you kind of just be reserved. The first game sets the stage for the rest of the matches, for the rest of the games rather, and it's a really test of endurance. But for a best of three, it's a short burst of just sheer comparing skill,
Yeah.
skill and calculations.
And a lot of risky stuff comes out with that. And at the same time, though Manila Eagles will be at a disadvantage because again, there's a lot of clips and a lot of there's a lot basically that Infused Esports can pull from when it comes to studying the Manila Eagles. So if I were Infused Esports, I would have looked at their whole performance this split and determined their weaknesses from there. And it's very hard to just come up with something new right off the bat, especially when you've had 2 to 3 months of running similar things all throughout. So if I were Infused, that's going to be where the strategies start. Whereas in comparison, the Manila Eagles doesn't have that kind of information, and you can't just easily study a team through Piltover's finest because
it's really hard. Not as much documentation.
Yeah, there's not as much documentation there, and I'm pretty sure the players might have changed names or switched their players around throughout the split. And of course, when was roster lock-in even finalized?
Roster lock-in was around within this week.
Yeah, exactly. So if it was within the week, then that would have just given them a few days to scope out the players of Infused Esports. So maybe that's why they changed their names.
But of course, in the roster lock-in, they also had the real names in. So if they knew the player personally, it would be that giveaway.
Yeah.
Because Path to Walk, his real name was there. I just googled. Oh, it's Hechizo. So yeah, I think my eyes are on Hechizo for this match. On that Lee Sin, especially being on that Lee Sin, he has to really break his back to put out a lot of pressure for his team. Because that Lee Sin will fall off, and if he gets behind, it's going to be so hard for Infused. Because if they get behind because Path to Walk doesn't give out too much pressure, doesn't snowball his lanes, that just means they won't have enough damage. Their composition already lacks a really consistent damage throughout their team. So if they get behind, they won't be able to break through the shields, the taunts, all of the protection that Manila Eagles can bring out for their carries. On the other hand, if the Manila Eagles get behind, they can just still play around the mobility coming from the team of Infused. So that's going to be their win condition. That's going to be how they're going to play this. It's going to be all about Path to Walk here. And it's all about Kups, how he's going to play around that and respond.
Yeah, so there you have it, guys. Those are our thoughts regarding the Manila Eagles and Infused Game 1. What do you think? Let us know in the comments below if you're watching the live stream. I hope you are. How else would they hear me? But anyway, guys, so enough of that rambling. Again, this is the Garena Pro Gaming Series promotions and relegations, where we will see who will be the final 3 teams joining the rest of the top 5 in the Pro Gaming Series Summer Split. And these games are being held live right now at the Pinoy Gaming Festival at Trinoma, Quezon City. So if you guys are nearby, you still have time. Head over there, watch these games live, and of course enjoy everything else that the event has to offer. And of course, this all would not be possible without backers.
Of course, yeah. Now make some noise in the chat. Put out your hashtags on social media, like hashtag TME win or INF win. Just put out your analysis, like if play
INF
happens.
Now? They're not INFZ anymore?
No, INF. Actually, yeah. The acronyms for the teams.
It's TMU, yeah. INFZ.
So it's gonna be the INFZ rather. So just make some noise in the chat, make some friends in the chat, like find a duo partner in the chat. I don't know.
Oh, and of course, don't forget to share the live stream to your walls, to your friends, and to everyone who cares about League of Legends, because again, esports is one of the biggest things that we have to enjoy League of Legends, apart from, of course, our casual plays and everything else that we do with our friends here in our favorite game.
So it is INF. So INF wins gonna be their tag. So just make some noise in the chat on which team you are supporting. We are live at gaming.youtube.com/phgarena/live. Of course, if you're already watching, you already know that. But of course, share that link with your friends.
Maybe
share that link with your friends, with your family, people in your comp shop. So everyone, just share esports, because this
even
is
your Lola and your
because for these older people, they usually don't know about esports. So it would be
although esports is going to be a medal sport now in the indoor games.
So that's gonna be really interesting to see that's actually recognized as a sport. And
I believe it's Asian indoor games.
Yeah, players can now legit say that they're athletes.
Yeah, I know. So it's a great time to be alive, especially to be an esports enthusiast. We're slowly gaining more and more recognition, not only in the international, but definitely in the local scene. And hopefully, Philippines will be able to catch up as well. You know, several schools already abroad have started offering scholarships, and it's a good thing that our own universities here, our colleges, especially those that are involved with the LOL Collegiate League, are very, very supportive of esports. So that's already an amazing sign. So I would say, you know, if I'm watching right now and I'm still a student, I would hope for a scholarship or something, some support from the school.
Yeah, what a time to be alive.
Yeah.
You know, so you're born too late to explore
You're still
the Earth.
a student.
Yeah, I'm still, I haven't graduated yet. But yeah, it's like, what a time to be alive. You know,
Yeah.
it's like you're born too late to explore the world, explore Earth. You're born too early to explore the space galaxies. But you're born just in time
To
for the
explore
rise
the
of
internet.
esports,
Uh-huh.
explore the internet, make memes, laugh at
Make
memes,
memes.
and then yeah, esports as well. So really interesting.
Oh, by the way, given that we're on this patch, well, have you tried out Rakan and Saya yet?
Yeah, Rakan and Saya are broken when used right.
The ultimate hashtag couple goals.
Yeah. Edgy Saya and Breezy Rakan. But
Breezy
yeah,
Rakan.
when together, they're really strong. Because
Uh-huh.
the utility, because in that laning, increasing Rakan's attack speed along with Saya's is just so strong. It really helps you with trading. Plus, Rakan is like uncatchable.
Uh-huh.
He goes in and then he goes back out. And with
Yeah.
Saya, the range for that is, for the battle dance, is even higher,
Yeah.
longer. So it's really hard to pin him down. But of course, we are loaded onto the Rift right
Uh-huh.
now, but there are a few technical stuff we have to fix. Of course, we'll be having a short break. So, but still, stay tuned. We'll be giving you the matches.
Yes, and again, guys, we are your shoutcasters. My name is Aika, and with me here is Atlas. Good morning and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Again, you're tuning in to the Garena Pro Gaming Series Promotions and Relegations for Summer 2017. It is a matchup between the Manila Eagles defending their spot in the PGS and Infused Esports, of course, fighting for their own. And again, this is brought to us by Bacchus Energy Drink. And we are your shoutcasters. My name is Aika, and with me here is Atlas.
Hello, and we are at the level 1. We're first minute into the game. Seems like both of our teams just have regular lines of scrimmage, just really watching out for their jungle entrances. No deep wards to be placed here to see the rotation. Okay, there's gonna be the Raptors ward from Dawn. Gonna help out to see how Kups actually paths. Because junglers, a lot of these junglers with good AoE, Zach included, would want to go Raptor start.
Yes, and again, we are watching from the Manila Eagles side. Give it up for your players. You have Suzaku in the top lane with that Galio, Kups with a Zach, Jungle Trevor on that Syndra mid, Marky on the Kennen, AD carry, and Shadow on that Lulu support. And of course, on the other side, we have Infused Esports with Flash to Die on that top lane, Nautilus, Path to Walk on the Lee Sin jungle, Awaken on that Victor mid, Jisoo on that Ezreal AD carry, and Dawn on that Karma support.
And that's the power of the Karma support. She has a lot more AoE than Lulu. So of course, early in the game is going to be Infused, pushing them in. So it's going to be, and Galio has a really weak level 1, especially compared against Flash to Die.
Yes, and Suzaku here having some trouble dealing with this Nautilus. Nautilus, of course, taking advantage of that and poking him a bit far back. And in the mid lane, we are currently looking at Awaken and Trevor, with Trevor expending a bit of his mana, and Awaken, of course, having the better time of poking Trevor away.
It's going to be... Let's look at the jungler's pathing, because it seems like they both want to focus here on the bot lane. They don't want either of them to get too behind, because that is what they do contain the most. Ooh, it's going to be the gank in the mid lane, but it's going to be just Awaken. Really just happy to burn his flash, helped out by Path to Walk.
Yes, here we go. Kups, of course, way past the gank there. And Kups, of course, evades expertly Path to Walk. Path to Walk with double buffs. Red and blue, while Kups only has blue buff, decides to back out from that clash.
And it seems like we might transition this into a gank in a bot lane. Oh, it's going to be a 3-man gank
and the
here.
Manila Eagle duo
Shadow
going really low. Shadow is, of course, out of position here. He goes onto the brush, but there's a ward there, so he's just going to be seen out. First blood taken by Dawn, and of course, in response, Marky manages to get a kill as well. Both supports are down for the fight. Meanwhile, in the top lane, Suzaku is in quite a pinch.
Yeah, of course, being pushed down, because despite the nerfs to the mana cost for Riptide, Flash to Die, still he can really push in the Galio here, especially in early levels. So that's going to be the game plan here. Suzaku, one of the best players in League of Legends Philippines, because I did see him early in their season. I believe he was around top 5-ish Challenger. So, but looking at it now, it's really nothing much that he can do, even with his mechanics. There's really nothing much he can do with a matchup against Nautilus here early in the game. But of course, there in that bot lane gank, yeah, it's really... I don't see why Marky and Shadow had to go all in for that engage against Jisoo and Dawn. Because they knew that Path to Walk was around that area. So going in there was definitely a death sentence. Of course, they did get the 1-for-1, but still, that's a lot of decision-making. That's a decision-making blunder, actually, to engage on that.
Well, it might be, again, the overconfidence, given that TME would be seen as the veteran team here. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, Kups goes right in. Awaken is really low. He takes out a pot to get some regen, but goes down anyway to Trevor with that kill credit.
Yeah, that's going to be Trevor, actually really scary. Already has the double Dorans for a really good laning start, so if he gets that kill, he's going to be one small item ahead of Awaken, which might actually mean life or death within the lane.
Yes, and again, we did discuss it earlier, and it's going to be crucial to be looking at these junglers, and especially for the Manila Eagles, they have to put down their wards. Even now, they don't have a lot of wards in their own jungle, and given that Lee Sin is the kind of champion that whose wielder you would expect to go in for those deep ganks, I'm quite concerned here, especially even after the the bot lane duo has already suffered from a gank from Path to Walk.
Yeah, we're gonna see actually how Path to Walk continues his path here. He's gonna clear his yeah, he's going to clear his Krug. Definitely planning to get that top lane gank or get an invade against Kups here because he is bot side. But after getting a few items, yeah, Suzuku will be able to match the damage coming from Flashidai if they ever get into a fight. Of course, a few pings here and there. I think they do know that Path to Walk will definitely be in that area. Even if you don't have vision over the jungler, once you see their CS before they've tax or even after they've tax, if you count how many minions they take,
you can more or less tell that they've
how they path based on how much CS that they have. Kups going for another gank here. But
yes,
I think
he does have the advantage, the vision advantage, but decides against it. Awaken sensing a gank from Kups, and Path to Walk already here in response. Looks like this might be a brawl here, but Path to Walk decides against it.
He has other things to do, such as clear his bot side jungle. Might actually use that to transition to the bottom side because Marky and Shadow are pushing in Dawn and Jisoo. This might be an opportunity. It is warded, but of course Lee Sin can just bypass these wards if he can. Rotate behind the Baron Pit, the Dragon Pit rather. He do have a ward behind that. Seems like he's just gonna go for the Blast Cone, if ever.
Yeah, this might be a bit dangerous, especially if the top laner from Infused, the Flashidai, decides to respond here. And Jisoo and Dawn are actually in quite a good position here. And they do decide to engage. Shadow has been caught, and Path to Walk is already onto him. Marky does his best to poke them away, but his support goes down, and Path to Walk gets that kill onto Shadow.
Shadow, yeah, Shadow really dying there. I like the timing coming from Infused there. They know that Flash to die was probably lived through a gank because of the tankiness and the lack of damage coming from both Kups and Suzuku. Because that's two tanks that don't have that need to build AP if they want to scale damage. But of course, they won't be building AP. So Flash to die can feel a little bit safer there. Especially he is in the middle of the lane.
Yeah.
So he has less chance to die. On the other hand, it's going to be Shadow. Even with the shields, it's going to be very hard to survive. Especially the timing of that gank was right before his flash went up.
Yeah.
So that meant there was no chance for him to escape. They just ignored Marky, went straight for Shadow. I like how Infused bot lane is playing this, along with Path to Walk.
Yeah, that was definitely very expertly executed by Path to Walk and the bot lane duo of Infused Esports. Of course, Manila Eagles here need to be more careful. I guess they felt safe because they already had laid out some vision around themselves. But again, Path to Walk on that Lee Sin can easily maneuver out of that. And even after you've seen him, he can still go in for that gank.
Yeah, he has a lot of gap closing skills, like the safeguard towards a friendly ward into Sonic Wave Resonating Strike. And then he slows you down as well. And combined with the utility coming with the Karma, speed him up, snare his targets. It's definitely hard. So he has to mind because even with the wards there, Dawn can easily set up these ganks for Path to Walk. And Jisoo taking advantage of his small advantage. Taking advantage of his small lead here, picking up the pickaxe, the Tear of the Goddess, and the Cull. Cull and Tear of the Goddess means that he's confident that he's going to continue living through the lane with his lead. So that means he's not going to get his combat stats as quick, but still, building into the Manamune plus the Cull means that he's going to have a huge gold spike and damage spike once both of those have been fully charged up.
Yeah, and I think that's a good call given that their own jungler is, of course, proving to be quite reliable in this early game, and he himself has a lot of damage to bring in those ganks. And meanwhile, Infused Esports is taking the first dragon of this game. It's going to be a Mountain Drake, and the Manila Eagles barely discovering this. Koops decides to go into the Dragon Pit. Path to Walk is already down to half health and gets poked out, but luckily, with Dawn there, he gets out of the trouble. Yeah,
easily just safeguards out of there. Now, yeah, just taking that Mountain Drake, the tankiest dragon of the game, at level 7 with 10 minutes. Actually impressive without Koops
and with only Lee Sin and that Karwa.
Yeah, and then Koops not being able to get there fast enough. Too late, actually, on the Elastic Slingshot. He was there for quite a while. And that was quite risky as well. But of course, I don't think he would have died there. It's decently tanky as Ninja Tabby to protect against Path to Walk's physical damage. But yeah, Warrior already on Path to Walk means that he was free to make that Dragon play. He has a lot of damage on his hands and just going to continue snowballing his damage. The more he ganks, we're going to see how he plays around that Coop. Spotted out by this ward, so that means the bot lane for Infused knows.
So in response here, the Manila Eagles is trying to be more aggressive with their wards because again, with a Lee Sin, you would want to have some vision. You would want to spot him out early on before he manages to bring out his gap closers, because currently the wards that the bot lane Manila Eagle duo have are too close and gives them very little time to react to the ganks of Path to Walk, as we've seen before here in the top lane. Flash to die, and Suzaku, of course, just duking it out again. And Suzaku, losing out here, decides to go back to his turret and losing some CS in the process. Yeah,
there's a small lead coming from Flash to die. Really, they're really banking on Suzaku's ability to make an impact in the team fights and the skirmishes in the jungle. But since Path to Walk has been focusing on the bot side bot side laners, it means that he doesn't have a lot of opportunities to use that hero's entrance coming into the jungle. He has to teleport and then he has to do the hero's entrance, which means that's a lot of value lost for that Galio. Because I mean, that's a lot of time having to be invested to teleport and then do the hero's entrance if he wants to make an impact there in the bot lane. On the other hand, Flash Die can just teleport. Just teleport in there, bring out his Nautilus CC. That's already good enough for Infuse. That's actually the power of their composition here. But later in the game, Suzaku might get scary because he can then match the wave clear coming from Flash to Die with his Winds of War, his own Bomby Cinder, and then that will allow him to just, once the team fights actually start, and then teams are rotating around the map, the hero's entrance gains a lot more value. So Infuse needs to play around that as well.
Yeah, and it's pretty scary, especially now that the next Drake is going to be a Mountain Drake. So if Infuse manages to net this one, you might see a fairly early push. And now in the mid lane, Awaken getting poked out, in trouble there, and decides to back away from that. We'll have to regen back in base.
He's just going to push the wave out, get the feel that poke, doesn't really care about that. He just wants a good recall timer. Oh, Jisoo.
Oh wow, here in the bot lane, they have just totally pushed him in and under turret. They managed to get that kill, of course, thanks to the ultimate of Shadow. Suzaku decides to teleport, seeing as Flash and Die is already here as well. Cooks from the side, manages to stall Flash to Die's escape, and even with that, they do not manage to get a second kill, but they did get one onto GC there.
The most important thing about that kill was that they do have control over this bot lane. They might take this turret. They have wave building up, but of course Flash Die and Dawn have respectable clear with that Soul Flare plus the Riptide, so just gonna push them away. But that is one kill onto TME. The gold is really close. 300 does not matter, especially even early in the game. But of course Jisoo, even with the safety and mobility coming from that Ezreal, there's no reason to push out that much when your support is absent.
Yeah.
Because that means it leaves you open to the CC, because that's going to be Shadow slowing you down, polymorphing you, and then Marking you just continue CCing you with his electric attacks.
I mean, definitely, it would be wise for Jisoo not to get into over his head, because he does need a lot from his support, especially when it comes to that. Do not underestimate the power of a Lulu support, even with the protection of your turret there, and especially when you have an enemy jungler like Zac, it would be expected that you should actually really expect people to gank you under turret.
The teleport was a bit unnecessary there because, yeah, Jisoo was lost.
Yeah.
He was definitely lost. There was no need to teleport. He just continued pushing out top lane against Suzaku, because that would have been dangerous if he matched, since Suzaku matched the teleport. If they didn't have wave clear, if they didn't have members present for wave clear, it would have been a bot lane turret. Even with the with the super armor that turrets get early in the game.
That's true. Okay, and here we have Flash Die and Suzaku. They might actually go in for a serious fight here. Yeah, they both have a lot of shields. So guys, let's wait until these shields are down. And yeah, they've kind of noticed that this is simply a battle of attrition here in the top lane.
They just need to push out each other's waves. But with the Bomby Cinder, with the natural Riptide, it's just them really clearing the waves out, which is how the top lane is to be played.
They're just denying each other CS and crucial farm there.
Just really clearing each other's waves. I mean, But that is going to be the rotation for the Mountain Drake. For the Middle Eagles, it will spawn in 15 seconds. They are clearing out the vision that Infuse has put down very cleverly. But it's going to be how the fight is going to be centered. The next big fight is going to be around here.
Oh, and here we have Koops just going in ham onto Path to Walk there. Not a lot of vision, and doesn't manage to spot out Awaken until he's face to face with him. And because of that, they decide to back off into the brush.
Yeah, it is going to be a standoff here. Both top laners do not have their teleports. It's just going to be a straight up fight here. If it comes to it, straight up 4v4 here in the bot side around that Mountain Drake, I think it might actually give it to Marky and the rest of TME. They have a lot of really high impact ultimates. They have the Slicing Maelstrom, they have the Unleashed Power, Wild Growth, Let's Bounce. That all has a lot more value for CC than Infuse, but seems like Path to Walk wants to go for another gank here.
Before that happens, Infuse is just going to lay on some aggression because the best defense is a good offense, but instead Koops is the first to go in. He goes down really low after missing his mark, and the ultimate from Awaken might finish him off, and he does secure that kill onto Koops. That was a bad call, and now this might open up actually Dragon for the side of Infused Esports, but no, they decide to get more, and Path to Walk has not had enough. Goes on to Shadow there, might actually just try and get this kill on his own. Jisoo and Dawn decide to just go for the turret instead, and we're going to see a rotate to Dragon. Yeah,
it's going to be the Dragon ping coming from TME. They think that Infuse will go for that, but it might just be Path to Walk soloing that. The DPS coming from Mountain Drake isn't too big compared to, say, Infernal. So he is going to be able to solo that. Dawn will help him out. Jisoo could just be farming there in the bot lane. He actually has finished his call, which is a really good back timing for him. Which means he is going to transition to that Triforce, building the Sheen with that Mana Crystal in his inventory. Plus the Lucidity boost. It's going to be the blue Ezreal here coming into, because that gold spike really gave him the freedom to build both the Sheen, 700 gold, plus the completed boots of Lucidity. It's going to be that itemization. The Marky actually not too behind in the way it's itemized, because he does have 2 kills. Bork really strong on 80 cannon plus Xerxes Reaves means that he's going to push out a lot more damage and a lot more stuns with his marks.
Wow, with those 2 Mountain Drake buffs that Infuse now has,
scary.
Flash to Die has decided to take full advantage of it and has now reduced the top turret of TME to less than half the HP. And that's going to be concerning for Suzaku. If he does not want that to fall, he's going to have to stay in his lane much longer in comparison. And especially that he's still behind in farm.
Yeah, Flash to Die really pushes out this wave much faster than Suzaku. Suzaku's Winds of War, and he really doesn't want to use Justice Punch to clear the wave. So Winds of War only hits like one part of the minion. It's either the front line or the back line of the minion. Oops.
Yes, meanwhile in the mid lane here we have Awaken in trouble. Decides to use his ultimate defensively, but now Koops has also gone down low. Now that Path to Walk has responded, Trevor gets displaced there, decides to go to the side with a brush for some cover there, and meanwhile he does manage to escape, but now we have Dawn as well helping them out, hoping that the speed buff would close the gaps, but they decide that, you know, we've already won this fight. They might actually go for top lane. Yeah, and now we have Suzaku here taking on 2-3 of Infused Esports. Yes, he is. It's going to take a while to stop him. He's already gone back under his turret. Flash to Die is relentless. They're just going to keep going, but Koops comes back after regen. And now we have 4 people from Infused Esports, with Awaken here responding as well, but in the process they still lose their top laner. But is it going to be the turret that will make this worth the fight? Koops is still in danger, and are they going to secure this kill? They're just slowly
on his way,
chasing him, but Trevor has decided to join in as well and respond. And although the stun has been laid down, Trevor decides it's too dangerous for him. Koops comes back, gets all of that aggro, goes down for his team. Take 1 for the team, but now Shadow as well. They're coming in 1 by 1 and trying to support Trevor and keep him safe. But Marky from the side, again, this is where the cannon is going to shine from the back line. He takes out 1, 2, and eventually 3 from the side. of Infused Esports. Marky there netting himself a triple kill.
That was such an overcommitment coming from Infused. They dive, because that's, even though TME lacks damage, the turrets still have their damage. Diving a tank with 3 other members that aren't really high damage is just asking for trouble, and they get collapsed on. They dive too deep. And they get collapsed on, especially all those kills going to Marky and 1 going to Trevor means it's really bad news.
Yeah,
it's going to scale up much faster than Jisoo has. Plus, they get a turret in revenge. Even with the first blood turret gold going to Infuse, it's going to be a 1.5k gold lead to TME.
So, not that worth it on the side of Infuse. They definitely pushed their luck there and thought that it would have been enough, the 2 Mountain Drake buffs. But again, you're right, they did not select the right people for the job, and instead they gave TME a lot of time to respond to that. But at the same time, I would also criticize the way the Manila Eagles responded to that.
Yeah, really, one by one, going in 1 by 1 here. But yeah, TME being free to do that rotation might be because Jisoo wasn't really being super impactful down there in the bot lane. He could have just kept pushing, but since Ezreal is not really a huge wave pusher, quite slow compared to other AD carries, and even when he gets to the turret, he does have the Sheen procs, he have an attack speed buff on himself, it's still very hard. So that gave TME the freedom to just collapse on the top lane with all of their members, available members.
And of course, I would think that if I were Jisoo, I would not expose myself to that much of a risk, especially seeing that your team wasn't being very impactful from the beginning. And now TME is deciding to take advantage of their slight lead and is pressuring top lane here.
And now this is their power spike actually, 20 minutes in the game. That just means that Suzuku can now participate in team fights with the hero's entrance. He has his Sunfire K completed, so he has a lot of AoE. Constant damage. Koops as well can just go in there with his Cinderhulk. So really, all of this is just...
Everyone's just here. Top lane, this is going to be a party. It's looking to be a 5v5 here.
And actually, at this point of the game, since Infuse didn't build up enough of a lead, TME might actually just continue brute forcing them into the wave, into the turrets. Because they have a lot of CC, and Infuse might not have enough damage to match the utility and shields that TME has. But of course, they do have the wave clear to push them away, plus 2 Mountain Drakes. So if ever TME makes a bad move, and Infuse gets some alone time with an objective, it's going to be a bad time for TME. So they have to give up that top lane because of the sheer wave clear. They have to rotate to another.
Yeah, because Dragon is almost up. 20 seconds. Gonna get some minor farm in there before, and of course set down some vision to make sure that this time they secure it, because that is gonna be Infernal Drake, which will hurt given that Infused already has 2 Mountain Drake buffs. We do have Trevor here trying to go in for that trap brush, but spotted out by GC.
And if ever the Infernal Drake goes to either of the teams, it's actually going to be big. They don't have a lot of damage. So every bit of Infernal Drake bonus that they get really helps them. It seems like they are, in the rotations though, it seems like Infuse is still focusing here in the top lane. Because they know that if they pull away pressure from TME, they know that, I think they know that when they get into 5v5, they will lose. They will most likely lose. But if they so they don't want to contest the Dragon too much unless the parties are split apart.
Yeah.
So they are making that macro play here. So that's why they're pressuring near Baron, rather to try and go for a pick. So that's going to be the game plan here for Infuse Esports.
And at the same time, they also need to be very careful not to stack their own team, because that's going to be the sweet spot for Marky and Koops. And especially for Trevor. Yeah,
Trevor just being able to deal lots of damage with his spheres. Thunderlords as well. Does have a little bit of AoE damage. So once he gets a good combo off in a small clump of people, it's going to hurt. Even with Syndra usually traditionally being seen as like one single target assassin mage, that deals a lot of respectable AoE damage if you let her.
So both teams playing strategically there. They have been clearing out enemy wards, but we will take a bit of a break there. The teams might be composing themselves or dealing with some issues right now at the live event. But again, ladies and gentlemen, you are still watching the Garena Pro Gaming Series. promotion and relegation, this is still the first matchup between the Manila Eagles and Infused Esports.
For sure, your shoutcasters, I am Atlas. With me is Aika. And looking at how the game, where we stopped off, yeah, that was really the Manila Eagles spike. And I like how they are starting to group up at 22 minutes. They know that they have their little itemization power spike advantage, so they start trying to go for these objectives. But of course, the game is still even in terms of gold. And if any team makes a bad move, it might snowball the lead.
Yeah, especially, and they're being very careful. Of course, the play for Infused Esports here is going to be to pick apart their team, make sure that they are in the right position to send Path to Walk there to displace one of the key carries on the side of the Manila Eagles. And the Manila Eagles being careful not to do that. And of course, both teams playing the vision game so far, especially since we're at the crucial third dragon, and Baron is also available. Both teams have lost some turrets, but I'm still on the fence about who's going to take the win for game one. It seems, as you have said, it's still pretty even at this point.
But yeah, if the fights continue at this point in time, instead of waiting for Jisoo to scale up, then it will be a win for Manila Eagles. But of course, if they can exploit, if Infuse can exploit the weaknesses coming from Manila Eagles, able to out-rotate them and then outscale them, I think they have a good chance. But I'm really surprised at how Path to Walk has been performing. A lot of overcommitments.
Yeah.
Not as the frequency of ganks is not as much as I expect from Hechizo, from Path to Walk.
Yeah,
he still has a high.
He
still has a lot of kill participation, but of course the kills are really low, so it's not really a good scale right now. For now, so because Lee Sin really needs to have a high frequency of ganks. He can't just keep farming.
Yeah.
He really needs to, when the enemy jungler is farming, he needs to be ganking. When the other is ganking, he needs to be counter ganking.
Yeah.
Or taking advantage of another vulnerable lane on the other side of the map. I didn't see a lot of that with. I mean, of course, he did gank bot lane a few times.
Yeah.
But I don't think the frequency is enough to actually snowball his lanes.
And those were at positions where any jungler would have ganked the bot lane, because again, the bot lane was already pushed out. From what I've seen is that the Lee Sin pick really shines, especially when you go in exactly when the enemy does not expect you to. So he's really there to break formation, to scatter his enemies, and even then he hurts a lot as well.
Yeah,
so
early.
Any squishy target that he manages to get his hands on is in big trouble. But so far, there hasn't been enough of that happening.
Yeah, he does have 3 out of 5 kill participation for his team, and that's actually still within the bounds of his statistics from Spring Split.
Yes.
But the frequency of it and the actual raw number of it, of only getting like 5, the pressure as well. Even if you don't get kills, the pressure should be there. I wasn't seeing it as much as he should. So he dive in the top lane.
Yes, they fully commit here into the top lane onto Flash to die. He's getting really low, but Path to Walk decides to respond, as well as Dawn. They're here to help out their teammates, and they've managed to not give up any life just yet, but TME is going to decide to turn their attention onto the turret. They take it down, and it's now a 5v5 here with some people low on their HP. Cubs is in trouble. Flash to die is right smack in the middle of all of that damage. 2 people are down on the side of Infused. Awaken and Flash to die. They're lacking some key damage here. Will Jisoo and Dawn be able to keep them at bay? TME has only lost Marky for now, with Suzaku really low, as well as Cubs. Are they going to go in for more? Jisoo does have double buffs, but I guess they decide against that for now.
And really, like what I said, if a 5v5 does happen, it will be in favor of TME. And now they've extended their lead to 3k, which is actually a little bit substantial. They can continue snowballing them by forcing more team fights and taking objectives from it. As you see there, they tried to push off Flash to die, and instead of really diving deep like what Infuse did earlier, they had the mind to just take the turret.
Yeah.
Just take the turret and then force the team fight after. And Flash, and then Path to Walk actually a little bit behind in terms of the. Let's look at the replay here. Even if Flash to die is really tanky, that's not going to be enough against 4 members wailing on you, especially one with Blade of the Ruined King. Path to Walk a little bit late in the rotation. Kicks away Marky, not really impactful. Here comes Dawn for the shield, which actually resets a little bit of a fight, while the rest of Infuse is starting to go, and that's the power of Suzaku on that Galio. Now the team fights are happening. It means that he can just scare away the entire team with that huge knockup radius. And really, this is Infuse behind in the power spike, naturally behind in the power spike, and being behind in rotations as well. Because you saw how late Jisoo and Dawn rotated there.
And I'm not sure what their plan was there. Their primary tank had already been whittled down to less than half his health, which means he would not be effective in his role. They just kind of hovered, and now they're fighting for vision because TME might actually want to gain the advantage over Baron here. But again, you know, very questionable there. It's as if they just reacted to their teammate getting harassed, and then after they got up to top lane, they did not have much of a plan to respond to that, hoping maybe that their numbers would scare them off. But you know, TME saw through that and decided that this is the fight that's going to be the best for us, because not only is our 5v5 great at this point in time, they do not have a tank to stay afloat in this fight and to set up for Awaken. And not to mention that Path to Walk had already used up his ultimate. The carries of the side of the Manila Eagles weren't in any danger or didn't have any threats that they had to be wary of. So if anything, Infused should have backed off, given up that turret, and prepared for another fight.
Yeah, definitely. Infused not minding their own power spikes. But of course, the gold lead isn't that huge. But of course, the power spike still in the hands of TME. Jisoo, he does have the Iceborne Gauntlet. Actually not opting for the Triforce, opting for a really blue build, lots of kiting. But I think the Triforce would have been much more effective here because they need more damage. Awaken doesn't have the same amount of consistent and reliable damage as, say, Trevor. And he really needs to be able to out-damage Morky. And I think the Triforce will help in that extent a lot. Because slowing TME down doesn't really do much. They still have a lot of speed boost. They have a lot of mobility with a ghost. They still have their all of them have their flashes up. The elastic slingshot can just go on you and then knock you up. And Suzaku as well. It just has the Justice Punch, doesn't really mind movement speed. So I really don't agree with the Iceborne Gauntlet pickup here for the Ezreal. I think they really need that damage. The damage is paramount, seeing that they lack a lot of lethality threat.
Exactly, they're not making the most of their carries right now. They're not letting Awaken shine, especially as well Path to Walk. I'm not so sure if it's because of the shortcomings of their other teammates, especially Flash to Die. You shouldn't be forcing your teammates to use key skills defensively, especially when that's supposed to be one of your biggest threats. And I feel like Awaken and Jisoo here, if they have, again, itemized differently as limited supply there, they could have been more effective in that fight, despite their positions, because we did see how low they brought down the enemy carries and even the tank of TME, but again, it wasn't enough.
Yeah, 2 Infernal Drakes in the hands of TME means that the team fight is even scarier at this point.
Yeah.
And I don't know why the carries of Infuse are itemizing like this. They already have a lot of utility. They have this frontline and CC coming from Flash to Die. They have the ability to engage and transition to frontline for Path to Walk. But here's going to be it in action.
Starts the fight right at the side of Baron Pit. Flying in, swooping in is Suzaku, and they're really low. Flash to Die does his best to stay alive with Jisoo here. Of course, poking down Suzaku. They managed to keep the attention away from Flash to Die here. And the rest of Infuse is actually doing a really good job of whittling down the enemy team, and TME decides to abandon this clash.
They could actually use that to their advantage for this mid lane turret, but even then, had Jisoo and Awaken had more damage, of course, the Rylai's and the Iceborne Gauntlet are there to kite them, and that really was effective against TME there.
Yeah.
But they already have a lot of ways to protect themselves, to kite. They have the slow from Soul Flare as well as a CC coming from the Nautilus, and the Lee Sin can peel very well. I think they can opt for more damage instead of so much safety with the Rylai's, as well as the Iceborne Gauntlet. They really need more damage.
Yeah, that's true. That's definitely true. I mean, while it was key in that fight, they managed to save Flash to Die. At the same time, instead of being that defensive, they could have actually done more, or they could have also still saved Flash to die if they had eliminated the enemy threats much faster.
Best CC is death. But
Best defense is still a good offense.
But yeah, TME, they went under half for that fight.
Yeah.
With all of the, with how long that fight went on.
Yep.
They accumulated increased damage from the Triforce as well as a different AP item than the Rylai's. It would have been enough because they already had a lot of peel coming from Path to Walk and Dawn, and the front line coming from, and then even Flash to Die was really in duress.
And it would have been really scary, especially since Victor really shines when you have those choke points, and they did clash at a key choke point there.
So I'm really not sure why Infuse itemize like that. It's way too defensive, trying to be way too safe. Path to Walk in trouble.
Cooks here going have onto Path to Walk infused, regrouping and deciding not to be so provoked by Cooks. Meanwhile, in bottom lane, top laners are still waiting it out, see which team gets control over Baron, and playing the vision game once again.
Yeah, now that Suzaku,
very crucial here,
the division is very crucial, especially around Baron, and especially around bot side jungle where Suzaku is split pushing.
Yeah.
Because even if he doesn't have to use teleport. The range of Hero's entrance at level 16, that's a level 3 ultimate, is huge.
Yep.
Which means that he can just walk out a little bit, and if fight happens around mid lane or a little near the Baron, he can just jump there directly on top of his team. And this is the point where Suzaku can just out-push Flash to Die. Because in a duel, the Winds of War have percent HP damage. Oh, there's going to be
Alright, Path to Walk gets caught out here by the mid brush, and he's definitely in trouble. He manages to get out of that. Awaken on the side here, flanking Trevor, and Trevor's really low. He's in trouble, decides to abandon this fight. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, we have Flash to Die tanking all of this aggression, while Jisoo tries very hard with his red buff to kite them around, but in the process, Flash to Die has already gone down, and it's only a matter of time as Jisoo has been cornered and gets obliterated in a matter of seconds there by Trevor, and this is exactly it. It's showing how much Infused is lacking in terms of damage.
Yeah, they can really kite them out well, which means that TME doesn't have as much kills as they would have with a different composition from Infuse. But 2 kills is enough for them to get this inhibitor.
Yeah.
It may actually rotate that into a Baron, seeing that it's only the death timers are long enough for TME to do this. Marky has Blade of the Ruined King. Trevor has lots of damage. They have a lot of frontline as well to tank damage from that Baron. So they are going to be rotating for that.
Yeah, because it's exactly that. While you can slow the push down, you're not stopping it. And you're not removing any key threats that would actually make Manila Eagles decide to abort the mission. And now they're going for Baron here, and Awaken is still alive, so that might be something to watch out for, and they are. So Trevor is going very aggressive there, but Path to Walk decides to jump into Baron, does not manage to steal it, and of course Suzaku gets a killing spree after taking out Path to Walk.
And really, that was quite dangerous from TME as well, because that's what I said. Both teams, they don't have as much damage, so having a lot of tanks. So here comes Path to Walk, trying to go, I guess, caught out actually, and even with the damage that they can bring out, the Hero's entrance plus the redemption just resets the fight, and Flash to Die now also in duress. Both of these frontliners do not work together.
Yeah.
What happens here is they go in one by one, they get focused, and then the other one has to fill in.
Yep.
But then after that, it's going to be both of them really low, and with Jisoo and Awaken not dealing enough damage to take advantage of their frontline taking so much aggro, it means that they will lose here, and Jisoo actually makes a huge positional mistake here. Getting taunted by the Idol of Durand means he gets stun locked and then dunked.
Yeah, at the same time, Awaken there, questionable positioning, although he did manage to zone out Trevor, but in the process, the rest of his team lacked all of that he could have supplied, especially when Flash to Die was doing his best to keep all of their attention on him. And now Flash to Die has been caught out here. I can't count how many times this has happened, but he has to get out of there, otherwise he's gonna go down. But they just secure the kill with Marky there. No trouble at all for
Elder
the side
Drake
of
is
TME.
live, and with an 8k gold lead in the hands of TME, together with that Baron buff, it's gonna be every team fight is gonna be TME's favor. And I think at this point, Infuse has fallen off. Path to Walk did not reach a good damage power spike. Awaken, his itemization is so is quite defensive with the Rylai's and the Merc Treads. So really, the damage is not there. Jisoo, he does have his damage fully stacked. Muramana has it, but the Iceborne Gauntlet really breaks his build because what happens here is that he doesn't have. I keep saying this. He doesn't have enough damage. Path to Walk no longer deals damage, even with the Hexbringer, even the Warrior's Enchantment, which means that TME can just freely take these objectives without fear of getting engaged on, and they can just reset the fight with Redemption, taking away all of the progress of the damage that Awaken and Jisoo did.
I don't see how else Infuse is going to stop this. They can slow it down, that's true, but now they're going to go in for the last fight, what could be the last fight, and they now have Suzaku with the front line and the back line. We have the ultimate of Awaken there, but again, as you have commented, it's not doing a lot of damage, and with 3 people left, Flash to Die is done for, and this is just going to be a slow death for the side of Manila Eagles. They want to get all of those yummy kills, but now their Nexus is exposed, and it's going down. Double kill for Trevor to close off Game 1 of this best of 3 between the Manila Eagles and Infused Esports. All right, ladies and gentlemen, again, this is still the Garena Pro Gaming Series Promotions and Relegations. You have just finished watching Game 1 of this best of 3 matchup, and we witnessed a strong performance there by the Manila Eagles. They managed to get back in game and get it together despite the early plays shown there by Infused Esports. And again, with Infused Esports lacking a lot of damage towards mid to late game, sealed their own fate in this Game 1.
When you look at the 2 compositions, they, on paper, they both lack a lot of damage. The Kennen does a lot of damage, the Syndra does a lot of damage, but that's just 2 DPS with with a lot of utility. But when you put 2 similar compositions against each other, and one scales better, and one is more independent of the conditions of the game, it means that they just continue to snowball. What I think the turning point of that game was that fight near the top lane. They were both gold even, but because the TME was able to force a team fight and get an objective because of their natural power spike, it means that Kennen deals a lot of that. So that means that the AD carry for TME does a lot of damage. Trevor also dealt quite a respectable amount of damage, and even Suzaku on that Galio. But Awaken and Jisoo also did their best in terms of damage, but this could have been a lot more if they built Triforce.
Yeah, because again, I think a lot of it is also with the strategies coming into those fights. While Awaken and Jisoo, it seems they did do a lot of damage, it wasn't at the right moments and right execution, because a lot of the mistakes of Infused Esports actually force out the rest of the team to use their ultimates defensively, and that's underutilizing them essentially. And even after they've done that, they decide to still commit to those fights. And again, you do not want that to happen, because again, it's like trying to bite without your fangs.
Yeah, because next game it might be if Infused loses, it's over for them.
Yep.
So what they need to fix is first they have to play to their win conditions, because they were really not playing their win conditions, trying to defend so much in that top lane push, which means that they can just get the team fight forced onto them, which means that they're at the disadvantage. They have to work to their win conditions for their composition. Like say, their composition demands them to do for a lot more kiting skirmishes, not 5v5 team fights. Second is positioning. The synergy from the frontliners is not there.
Yeah.
They're really either going in one by one or getting caught out. So those are the 2 most important things. I think the mechanics are there. Infuse has a lot of hatches of familiar places. That's going to be 1 win here for the Manila Eagles, which takes them a little step closer towards getting in to remaining in the Pro Gaming Series for Summer Split.
And Infuse Esports hopes getting a bit dim here for the Pro Gaming Series. They need to bring something out to be able to net more kills, and of course the rest of the promotions and relegations games will follow after this best of 3 series. So later on today, we'll still have 2 more matchups for the remaining 2 slots. But again, watch out for the next game here. It's still 1-0, so we may have 1 or 2 more games left between the Manila Eagles and Infused Esports here at the Garena Pro Gaming Series Promotions and Relegations for the Summer Split. Again, these teams are playing live at the Pinoy Gaming Festival right now at Trinoma, Quezon City. So if you guys have time, do drop by and cheer on for your teams. We are your shoutcasters for today. My name is Aika, and with me here is Atlas, and this would all not be possible without Bacchus Energy Drink.
We'll be back at break.
They take it down, and it's now a 5v5 here with some people low on their HP. Cubs is in trouble. Flash Die is right smack in the middle of all of that damage. Two people are down on the side of Infused, Awaken and Flash Die. They're lacking some key damage here. Will Jisoo and Dawn be able to keep them at bay? Gets caught out here by the mid brush, and he's definitely in trouble. He manages to get out of that. Awaken on the side here, flanking Trevor, and Trevor's really low. He's in trouble. Decides to abandon this fight. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, we have Flash Die tanking all of this aggression, while Jisoo tries very hard with his red buff to hide them around, but in the process, Flash Die has already gone down, and it's only a matter of time as Jisoo has been cornered, and now they're going for Baron here, and Awaken is still alive, so that might be something to watch out for, and they are. So Trevor is going very aggressive there, but have to walk this side to jump into Baron. Does not manage to steal it, but now they're going to go in for the last fight, what could be the last fight. And they now have Suzuku with the front line and the back line. We have the ultimate of Awaken there, but again, as you have commented, it's not doing a lot of damage. And with 3 people left, Flash Die is done for. And this is just going to be a slow death for the side of Manila Eagles. They want to get all of those yummy kills, but now their Nexus is exposed, and it's going down. Double kill for Trevor to close off Game 1 of this best of 3 between the Manila Eagles and Infused Esports.